Welcome back, everybody. It's been a very long time since Eric has had a segment, so I'm pretty pumped for this one. Today, we tackle the big question of why we love sports. Eric, it's all you.
Yeah, so I was driving to work a few days ago, and I'm like, I don't know, just pondering the world as usual. And and I'm like, I work in sports, I watch sports all the time. I think about sports a lot. James, you work in sports. You talk about sports all the time. Tyler, you work in sports. Alex, you worked with sports as well. Um, Traden, you coach sports. So why do we love sports so much? Like I just really want to know why. And first question, like what makes us pay attention to sports? I mean, we made a damn podcast about it. It's our main topic of focus every week. But like why are sports our main focus, James?
I think it comes down to four things, and it's four pretty big things. I think it comes down to competition, community, nostalgia, and entertainment. So for the first one, for competition, it's like people love winning. People love to succeed and they love to brag. So whatever gives them that edge to do so, they're going to take that bait and do it. For community, one of the biggest and most basic human needs that everybody has is community. You want to feel a part of something, and you don't necessarily have to be part of the team, but you can be part of a fan base, and you can be empathetic towards the team's successes or failures. So whatever they feel, you feel, and being part of that community makes you feel like you're part of something bigger than yourself, and that's key. And people who don't have community, like, they're not real human beings, right, Tyler? Right.
Tyler's an alien, everybody.
Tyler is an
established
alien.
that in the past.
Also, in terms of community, it gets fans to bond with one another. Like you go to a game and then you can be best friends next to some guy who you don't even know. And then you just talk about the game the entire time, crush a couple of beers, and all of a sudden you guys are homies. Or if you go to the bar, sports bar, same thing. Sports brings upon friendship. Next, we go to nostalgia. And a lot of times people can track sports to bonding with a family member, or it reminds you of a simpler time. Because many of us started watching sports at a young age. Like for myself, whenever I watch Lakers games, I think of me and my dad watching Lakers games. Like my dad worked 3 jobs, so his time off, he'd watch Lakers games, and that's what I would do too. So that's why I love basketball. That's why I love the Lakers. It's nostalgic. It makes you think of a simpler time. And I hope that one day I'll take my kids to a baseball game and they can remember me crushing hot dogs and beers every inning. Good stuff. And lastly, we're going to go to entertainment. People live hectic, super stressful lives. So it's allowing us to take an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours out of our day to just get away from it. And it's not bad. Like you're not doing drugs. You're not like you're watching sports, you're rooting on a team, like you're being part of something bigger. And that ultimately doesn't really affect your life unless you're betting profusely on it. But it allows you to get away from like real world problems in a pretty positive way.
So basically you said sports are our main focus because we don't do drugs.
Yeah,
No.
I mean,
No,
yeah.
I'm fucking with you.
I do want
that's
to ask one thing though.
yeah.
I mean, James, while I agree with Hunter everything you said, it does seem like you're really focusing on team sports. So, how do individual sports kind of fit in that framework in terms of why we love them? Because not everyone loves, team sports, or not everyone loves team sports. Some really focus on individual sports.
I think for the most part, it all fits. I mean, competition can still be seen in a singular sport.
That's fair.
Community. I mean, you can go and you can root on Rory. I mean, he didn't make the cut this time, or Dustin. He also didn't make a cut. But the fact of the matter is, the entire Japanese community rallied behind
Hideki
this entire weekend. Like community right there. He's the first Japanese-born player to do so. Nostalgia, same thing. Like it doesn't have to be a team sport. It can be any sport.
Yeah. I mean, I used a different word instead of community. I said culture. Same thing basically. But like, our upbringings as well, which goes with the community. Like maybe to answer Traden's question too, like tennis. People who love tennis, like maybe their parents got them into it when they were kids, and then that was their main sport they always played. So they know a lot more about it than they would football or something like that. And then like one other random thing, like I didn't get into hockey until 2009. I picked the right time to get into it though, because that's like when the Kings started, just catching on fire and had their runs. I didn't get into golf till like 2014 probably. And now it's like all I ever fucking talk about, people get sick of hearing me talk about it all the time. Like everyone I'm around. And like, it takes up a lot of my time now too, but I was just like, that's what I was thinking too when I'm driving. Why the fuck do I like these sports so much? What the hell? Like, takes up so much of my time. But those are some good deep answers, James, as I would expect from you. Next, so the world changed dramatically a year ago during this time. It's pretty much what gave us an idea to start this podcast, if you think about it. We were like meeting up, hanging out, always debating sports, and we're like, damn, we should just record this shit and make it a podcast. But all sports were affected and somehow changed. But how important were sports? I would say before this whole pandemic, during it, and after. Alex, I shot this question over to you.
Yeah, I mean, personally for me, like obviously I was a huge sports fan before. It meant a lot to me. What I did every night, I got home. Oh, it's from work. It's July. Cool. The Dodgers are on. Let's watch a Dodger game, eat dinner, and drink 3 beers. Like that's what I did. And then when it stopped, because they pretty much all stopped within about 3 days of each other. I think everyone, and I'm speaking for myself, but I'm sure most of you guys feel this way as well. We really started to appreciate what sports means to you. If you had a bad day, you come home, the Kings won 4-2 over the Sharks. Already a better day. Like your day will turn around, and we missed it. Baseball was the first one to come back. And it didn't, and it was still, what was it, 4 months or something of just nothing. And I mean, I could literally tell like, okay, I'm home from work. Oh, there's like no game on to watch. What do I do with my time? And then once everything started back up, with the social injustice movements and how much these players are generally respected by their fans and what they mean to people. I mean, you see kids get an autograph from their favorite player and they like immediately like break down in tears. So I think having sports come back, I mean, it means not to everyone, obviously, but it means the world to a lot of people. People get buried in their favorite jersey. These Cub fans went to visit their dead relatives saying like, guys, the Cubs finally won the World Series 108 years later. Like sports means everything to people. And I think it's something that has helped us move through this pandemic and will help us continue to move through it as we're hopefully getting, towards the back end of it. I think people like James and Traden going to the Angels game, they were talking about it last week and just how great it was to be like at a baseball game and drinking beers and eating hot dogs. So it helped us get through the pandemic. And I think it will help us move past it once we're done. And I mean, and everyone's going to be so stoked when there's 50,000 people, in a stadium again. So it's been a lot.
I mean, just go to Texas and go to a Rangers game right now. You're basically in just full fans. But yeah, like you're saying, it kind of taps into the nostalgic component.
I just want to say something real fast.
Yeah.
Sorry, Eric. But Joe Musgrove for the Padres pitched a no-hitter in Texas with a full fan base around it. And I don't think that it could have gone down any better because a full entire stadium of people got to watch him throw a no-hitter.
Yeah.
And that's the first time that's happened since all this went down. I think that's really cool.
Yeah, that's a sign that every stadium should just get full fans again, huh?
Yeah, 100%.
Get your pitchers to throw no-hitters. Yeah, Alex, those are all really good points. Like pretty much what I was going to say too before this virus, it's like sports were just as important as we always thought they were. Like you said, it's like, you're like, oh, you're getting off work early. Oh shit, I'm able to, it's almost 4. I know hockey games started for the East Coast games. And, from saying 4 in the West Coast, obviously, but the East Coast games are starting at 4 for hockey and basketball. So that's a bunch of games you could watch. And that's every day, during those seasons. Baseball too, every day there's games going. Football, it's like your Sundays now Thursdays, obviously Mondays too.
Except when you're playing fantasy, then it's every day.
Sometimes Tuesday.
Yeah. So set your lineup. That's always important. During this whole shutdown is like when we realized really how important sports were to us, because literally they all came to a complete halt, like you said, within days of each other. And then the worst part was that every sports channel was playing reruns. So they're playing all the nostalgic shit James is talking about. Like, they're showing like, oh, this day, like last year was when Kawhi made that buzzer beater Game 7 against the Sixers on the Raptors. Like, and you're like, fuck, man, like the NBA playoffs should be going right now, but they're not. Like, you see, block slap shots, top 10 highlight dunks, cheating baseball teams, everything, all that was gone. And then after the whole virus and aftermath, it was replenishing to see sports return. It was weird as shit seeing that there was no fans, and the no fans is really a big thing. Like James just pointed out, the no hitter, full fans, that's epic. That's what we need. That's what's going to get sports back on the map. I don't think sports going anywhere now, but a quick little fact check to end this rant. 25% of NBA player salaries come from the fans. I heard that like in a meeting a couple months ago, and I was going to mention it on here, but I forgot, and now I remembered to mention it tonight. But that's 25% of an NBA dude's contract is probably a good amount of money. I'd take that money. All right, let's move on. I just went on a trading rant right there.
Great insight.
Let's move on to the next little topic. We all seem to have our favorite sports, but why? You think like cultures, history, holding a metal stick as your main equipment, etc. And Tyler, I directed this to you, but what are the things that drove us to liking our selected sports? What are the things that drove you to loving baseball, liking hockey, etc.?
Yeah, I think when people ask me, why do you love baseball so much? My immediate response is, why don't you love baseball so much? It's just kind of a thing that I've always grown up with. For example, my first Dodger game I went to, I was 10 months old. So I literally, like, all I remember as a kid was going to baseball games and playing baseball in the backyard with my dad. And it was part of my upbringing. So for me, it was embedded in me to love baseball. So that for me is just how I grew up with it. So for me, it's just natural for me to like it. The reasons why, if I really have to think about it, it's kind of the little things about it. I think being at a baseball game, like going to a game, just the sights and the smells of everything. It's kind of more of a romantic sport. And I know it's kind of like a weird thing to say about it because, sport's supposed to be manly and, all that stuff. But baseball is a very romantic sport, which, I really appreciate. It's a beautiful game. Just the sights of the field, of the grass, of the dirt, of the blue skies during a day game, the smells of the hot dogs and the beer, and just the roars of the crowd and all that stuff. And the sounds of the bat and the pop of the glove. It's all the little things that I don't think you really ever point out. Obviously, when your team hits a walk-off home run, of course that's awesome. Or a pitcher throws a no-hitter, that's great. But it's even on bad days, where your team loses 10-0, you still appreciate those little things within it. So for me, I'm sure you guys all feel the same about the sports you like. It's kind of about the little details of it that for whatever reason, attract you to like that sport. And for me, baseball, it's all the little details. And I think for a lot of people, that's what really gets you going.
Dude, that sounded like you were reading like a poem right there. It was very romantic. It was like a lot of similes, metaphors. But no, I agree with you. Like, I think the same way, like going to a hockey game, like when you hear them passing that puck around, Trayden, I know this gets you riled up. Just the noise of the puck slapping on the stick across the ice, it's so loud. but like they're like cradling that puck, whipping it around the boards. Like the hits are so loud. A goal gets scored, everyone jumps out of their seat, the horns go off. But yeah, I mean, the one random thing, another little mini rant I'll say, is something that drives people to liking selected sports. It sounds arrogant, but money. You think about lacrosse, hockey, golf, even baseball. There's equipment involved. Hockey, especially, it's pretty expensive, and when you're young, like it takes some money to spend on that. Like it's a lot of commitment. Basketball, you can just show up to a park. Someone will probably have a basketball. There will probably be basketball hoops. You'll probably have shoes on your feet, hopefully, and you could play basketball. You don't need a bunch of gear. Soccer is similar. But yeah, money can change the sports that you play growing up, depending on your resources, things like that. But here's one other random thing. Why we're so hyped on sports? Like, has sports ever really been boring to us, Tyler? Have you ever been bored of like watching sports?
Cricket for sure.
Tennis, dude.
I don't know what it is about cricket. I've honestly given it an honest effort. I've tried to learn the rules. I've tried to understand it. What are you doing? You're playing in a rectangle in a circle with this weird paddle, and most of the time you miss it. And I don't know. It's kind of like baseball, but not even like baseball at all. If someone can get me to like cricket, like that would be one of the most amazing accomplishments of humankind. I don't get cricket at all. That's probably the only sport that I honestly, genuinely think is extremely boring. Other than that, I can find excitement from pretty much any
I think there's plenty of sports I think there's a few sports that are boring, but I've been bored watching a hockey game. I mean, there's some boring hockey games out there. There's some boring football games. There was a boring playoff football game, for Christ's sake, and James can probably attest to that. He said it was a boring game. Like it happens, but more than likely, it's not boring.
Yeah, that's pretty much what I was trying to get Tyler to answer, but he didn't answer that. So it's all right.
He was too busy being inside bread.
He's too busy worried about cricket.
Embedded.
He was embedded.
English is hard, guys.
Dude, for this segment, can you get you need to
I'm gonna Photoshop
like a piece of bread with his face on it, right? Yeah,
that's exactly like Romeo and Juliet when he's like talking about the poetry stuff.
Make up a new word.
So, last but not least, Trayden, I got a question for you. Sports create many roles and jobs. Many skill sets can be involved outside being an athlete. Like I mentioned earlier, me, Tyler, James, Alex, even Trayden, your fiance, we've all either worked in sports or have worked in sports. And, there's a lot of time involved during seasons. Your everyday life is spent working with sports. Sacrifices are made. But what would be your ideal non-athlete role working in sport?
Thinking about this, my first thought as I'm in the finance game myself, I would want to get into the business side of not only just professional, but you need business operations and throughout it all and throughout all levels of the sport. So I would immediately go there. It's that's my skill set. That's what and you get to be part of the organization and the game. But more, I think something that just kind of brought up regarding the resources stuff that you were talking about earlier, something that I've always wanted to do and focus on is making hockey more accessible to the people of lower income, that don't have the resources that I was blessed with. And this game continues to get more expensive. And in my opinion, it could attract the best athletes in all of sports. If hockey was more accessible here in the United States, I wonder how many of the NFL players we see play hockey instead. And the game would be, I can't imagine what the game would be like then.
Jalen Ramsey.
Yeah. Jalen Ramsey or, I look
JJ
at,
Watt.
yeah. Oh, I also look at the
Yeah.
speedy side. I look at a Tyreek Hill. I mean, I can't imagine the type of player he could be if he was born with a stick in his hand. So, so my I think I would want to I think I'd like to focus on the giving back and creating a charity or being part of a charity organization that was mainly focused on getting people put skates on their feet, putting sticks in their hands, and playing the game of hockey, and giving access to a game that otherwise some athletes just completely let fly by the wayside because it's just too expensive to play. And I think that would make our sport, it would grow our sport and make it even better than it already is.
So you're talking business ethics. See, the
Business
thing about business is
that's a great movie.
Madison reference, people.
Fantastic movie, by the way.
But yeah, that's a good answer, of course. Me working on the business side would be terrible. I don't know anything about business. I'd probably drive an organization into the dirt if I worked on the business side of things. I could see you doing good though on the business side of things. For me, my ideal role is basically what I do now, but working with golfers. Surprise. Like I'd be down to like start a gym for golfers. James, would you be down?
That's a thing. It's like in Newport. That's like
a TPI place. Or whatever.
Yeah.
But we should start another one, a better one. Get sponsored by like Puma or something. Who knows? But
I'm down.
Yeah, that's all I got on our little conversation about why the hell do we like sports? Like, what the fuck? Why do we like it so much? I still don't have like an answer, but I'm searching for it.
Just always there, man.
And as a listener, I think that you're searching for it too, but I hope that we helped guide the way to, you finding the answer. But when you find the answer, you let us know. We'll be listening.